So first we're going to just set space. So when you find a place where you're comfortable, your body is being just held. There's nothing it needs to do except be rejuvenated as we visit. The body is so important to what it is we are called to do in this life. We gather in the space of sacred ground of sovereignty. We know that we claim and have the right to claim the values which surround and hold us wherever we are, but specifically as we're meeting today. We know that we have guidance not only here on this planet from those who have common values, but we have clear connections into that spiritual realm of the unseen, where there are unlimited teams, individuals, collectives waiting to hold us, move us, expand our dreams, help us understand. And we ask for that expansion for us all. I express our gratitude to Gaia and recommit to her our promise to keep her healthy and well, knowing that that has been dropped, we pick it up again as soul in female body. We ask that her energies, her directions, her elements be with us today as we meet. That all we do for ourselves, we do for those we are connected to in love, as well as those that are all creations and children of God. We call in those who are specifically here to help us with the maternal trauma, storage, violence that has accumulated within humanity's psyche, within the female psyche and the male psyche. We ask them to be with us and guide us today. And with that, the circle is set. We are ready to work together. So the declaration that I made for today in my work, I call it a reality declaration. It's very similar to an affirmation. Is that women in class today come with sincere curiosity, with deep desire and commitment to bring humanity and Gaia into resonance of our truth, our star beings of all good, of which there is aspects of love, peace, respect. There are only three of all that is there. So I'm going to spend a bit of time with the galactic history because all of my work is based on that. In 1971, I was in a patriarchal system where it was the men who received inspiration or prophecy or whatever, and then they would tell the women what they received, and the women would just carry it out. We would obey. It was easy because we were also told that if the words were incorrect, even we were still to obey because we would be judged on our obedience to the male, not on the truthfulness of the information. And fortunately, in my family, it was a real partnership and it wasn't abusive in any way. It was just a gentle patriarchy in which I walked away knowing that my job was to have children and obey. And so in 1971, I was pregnant with my eighth child. I guess she was my seventh child in 1971. And my husband had a visitor, and I kind of listened in on their conversation as I served pie and ice cream. And his visitor was there to explain to him a very simple model about how you can receive information from that male god and be absolutely on target. And so I listened in, and it was like, oh my, I'm a very curious person. That sounds really fun. I'm going to give it a try, not thinking that I was stepping outside the box. And the process was very simple. It's probably one I didn't at the time. And it was find a time and a place where you won't be interrupted. So husband at work, some of the children at school, other children taking a nap. Got it. Then you go into your bedroom, you kneel down and you pray, open up the door, and then you do some kind of, I would say, like meditation, bringing your mind into focus, putting all the worries off to the side. So when you get in that place where you're feeling like not connected to the world, but more like in between, you ask one question and you have a piece of paper, journal, whatever there. And then you ask the question and you just be still and write down whatever comes to you. Okay, I could do that. So that's what I did. I don't remember the question. It was certainly focused on my mother role because I thought maybe that would be okay. And for me, it was instant, like pages, like 3 or 4 pages just came tumbling into my mind. And I realized that looking back, that's being very telepathic. It wasn't pictures, it wasn't colors, it wasn't symbols, clear words. So I used that technique um, kind of as my go-to place. And my husband was killed in a car accident in 75. And so that became my place to go for directions for my life and for my life now as a single mom of 8 children. And that led me to say it was safe to try other modalities, read other kinds of books, which I did. And that led me to affirmations like, oh my gosh, I can participate with God and I don't have to just do what someone tells me he's telling me to do. I can direct my life. So that was where I started. And that was like 84. By 89, I was using that, teaching it with others, excited about what affirmations could do. And I was exposed to crystal chakra balancing, which was really outside my religious comfort zone because I'm a woman. You don't do hands-on stuff with as a woman. That's men's prerogative. But nevertheless, I tried it and I loved it. So pretty soon I realized that I needed to step outside of my religion's box, not because I had angst with them, but because they didn't have all that I needed. By 89, I was working with clients moderately and mostly women. And they would come and they would tell me what their dreams were, what they had visions of doing and being and creating, projects and bookstores and books and all kinds of stuff that was amazing. And so they would come to me or they'd go to others in that new age, personal growth, metaphysical region. And because they would hit walls, go to a healer, the walls would go away. You'd go to a retreat, the walls would go away. Then you get back in your life, and pretty soon you hit a wall again, cycling in the wall, right? So for me, I call myself radical mystic because I'm not going to just accept walls are there because we have to learn or whatever was being taught. I went, no, I'm not. It's just that's a waste of time. So I again took the question to my team. I call them the ancient ones now, but they definitely is a collective. I said, where can I go to learn and get the cause of humanity's cycling in pain? And where can I go to learn what it is and how to get rid of it? And they said it's not, the information isn't on the planet because it's been removed intentionally. So
Wow.
if you want to learn that, we'll have to teach you. If you want to do that, we'll teach you, but you can't find it here on the planet. So, naive me, I said, let's go for it. Absolutely. So that took me on a journey of maybe 15 years, piece by piece. I'd bump up, I'd ask questions, I'd get answers. I'd bump up, at myself or my client, and it came to me piece by piece by piece. And they said to me, you're going to be very grateful at some point in time that you had the time to gather the pieces because there's going to be a time in the future where people won't have that much time or luxury to gather the pieces. So I said, okay. So I I'm going to share with you the pieces, especially as it relates to female, because that's what's important to know. So I'm going to share with you, first of all, I usually have it as a spiral, but I'm going to show you it as what the Hermetic school, mystery schools, how they look at it. And here we go.
Is Hermes the same as Mercury?
Hermes Trismegistus, Franz Bardon, all the same. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the mystery
Interesting.
school in Egypt, it was Hermes Trismegistus because he had 3 titles. Well, they teach that here we are at home
Mm-hmm.
where everything's possible. That is absolutely the region where all there is love being a one word for all possibilities of good. Love is one aspect, but all possibilities present for all of us, moving through us all at the same time, you know. And so we have it all there. As we gathered in smaller groups, we coalesced into smaller collectives that I call a divine family. One by one, different groups birthed into what I call their first world, the first world from home. And in that world, everything's there, but they have a specific agenda. So I'm going to experience all of the frequencies that we would call joy, or I'm going to experience all the frequencies of love or peace or curiosity. So each group coalesced around an agenda that I call the Divine Families Agenda. That was our purpose for extending from home. And as we had experiences there, we might stretch a little bit and expand our agendas and say, okay, let's do it this way and add a little bit more. And then they would be not out of here, but moved into another place of experiencing it a little bit differently. What has been removed from our memory as star beings is that there were other groups birthing from a home of all good who, by intention, inserted codes, numbers are what's effective up there, numerical codes, because they wanted to experience using other people's light and creations. They made themselves intentionally parasitic by nature. So whether you call it domination, power over, voyeurism, pedophilia, rapists, abusive pathologicals, they have that energy, not saying the being, they have an energy influence of parasitic. So parasites always suck their hosts dry. Their hosts eventually die. And they're always looking for the next juicy host. So here, we're just going to follow one of the families that are connected to our Earth here. So here is this family. Man, it is bursting with juiciness, and it draws the attention of the parasitics who are always searching for the next host. And when what they have going on, those parasitic types, is a broadcasting, you are not enough, a deceptive broadcasting to allow this family, and at this point, I could do, at this point, this is all, we're only in this space, or maybe this space. The broadcasting comes in that says, hey, we see your newbies on the block. Welcome to this expansive new space in Laniakea. We are so glad you're here. We've been here a very long time, and we know more than you know. And we'd love to share our wisdom with you. Maybe show you a few ropes to try that you wouldn't think of, because you're not enough. You've not been out here long enough. You've not schooled enough. You're just newbies. So let us come on in and we'll show you some tricks. And several of these types of families of divine family agendas fell for the lie, opened the door, the boundaries, and invited in these parasitic types. And as soon as the parasitic types had space in the family collective, I immediately started to do whatever they had to do through violence, through targeting, to attach codes of ownership and make this group slaves. Slavery and mastership exist out in Laniakea and began in our specific family groups right here, first, second, third world. So, Matt, you're not enough did not begin on the planet. Slavery mastery did not begin on the planet. So in the Hermetics, what they say the same thing. Right about here is where we started to fall in energy because parasitics had invaded our space, owned us, come within us, our collective, and they began to siphon off our creative light. Whoops. Hello.
Hey there, my phone overheated and it kicked me out. It took me a minute to cool off my
Oh,
phone.
I figured I thought it was probably I had stopped the recording, so I just wait till you got back to see if you,
Okay.
if you yeah. Okay, you
So yeah,
ready?
and I cut out after you were talking about the original cause, not enough, and the chaos chip.
Yep, yeah. So I'm gonna just start there. And
Okay.
there you go. So here we are in that what would be called the third world. Basically, the Hermetic tradition says the same thing, and I didn't get it from the Hermetic tradition. I was shown this and told this, and it was like, I don't know, a year later I was made introduced to a Hermetic master from France. So the problem of you're not enough and slavery, who owns us, was up here in the galactic world, and this process, the Hermetics call it in the involution. We're falling in energy. You see, involution, and so we tried many things because we're brilliant, but we were owned. So we tried many things. That's a whole part of a course, but it didn't work. We couldn't get out from under there, sucking us dry, and we were really in this world, what I'll call the seventh world, away from home. We were literally on the verge of extinction. And we were just souls. This is not Earth, you see? And so we had to come up with a plan, different plan. So that's where we came up with the idea that we needed to have a way to make that energy of outsiders that were so deceptive and so slippery that it was like, first of all, they just move around so quickly that we couldn't hardly even capture them. But the biggest problem was they owned us. So we thought if we were on a planet or in a space in which energy could slow down so that it could be tasted or discerned, then we would know that, oh, that's energy. That's the energy right there, right? We could name it. Well, that was good. So we said, okay, then we'll need to have a planet that will allow us to come with our contamination, because we were contaminated. Okay, that was one thing. The other part is we knew we needed a bodysuit. These beings, our original family landed here. They didn't birth here. But we had a bodysuit that was created from physical, from a blueprint we created. So we created a blueprint that would allow the soul of this light star soul to move around. And we created the blueprint. We had the wiring for a natural unfoldment, do our mission, go back home, go back home. And there was nothing about bringing children we would have never brought children into the contamination. The purpose was to make that energy so visible that it could be named, one, and then find a way to have some authority voice to make it remove to extinction. So we figured out that, okay, we find a planet, we'll have a bodysuit to move us around. What to do about authority. And that's when we came up with the idea of 2 bodysuits. The numerical code formula was like a software program. It existed. So we came up with a plan that we'll say the first bodysuit would carry the soul's ownership codes and one more energy code from another soul. So one of the bodies would carry 2 ownership software programs, so that the outsiders, I call parasitics outsiders, so the outsiders would know that 2 of their lackeys, their slaves, had now come onto this new place. Great. That will be more minerals and food and creations. We don't know what they're going to do down there, but it's okay with us, because here we have 2 slaves being monitored, being watched, being owned by the outsiders, by the parasitics. In that plan, the star soul who has extracted the ownership chip is free of ownership and therefore has a voice of authority, comes onto the planet in a body not seen by the outsiders. Not seen by the outsiders, not owned by the outsiders, and therefore had the authority to taste fruit of good, taste fruit of evil, name the evil, doesn't belong to the family, and have connections to the bigger family off planet that call them in, make the declaration with authority to call in the help, to have the outsider energy identified, neutralized, unplugged, extracted, and moved back to its place of light dust, never to be made, never having the opportunity to be parasitic again. So it wasn't just moving them around, it wasn't just hiding, but it was literally the authority to have them moved into extinction of that agenda. So we found that Gaia said, you can come here. Our agreement with Gaia, she knew we were coming contaminated. And our commitment to her is that we will keep the contamination from you because we are going to eliminate it. It's not going to impact you because we're going to eliminate it. So she agreed that we could come here with our contamination in order to let the energy be made manifest and removed. So that was a done deal. The bodysuit we call male is the bodysuit that carries two outsider contracts in the bodysuit. So the bodysuit is really owned from the beginning, owned by the parasitic, as well as that soul was also owned by the parasitic. That began in those worlds. But the soul knew that and knew that and I'll say he had a specific job, and it was a critical job. The chakra unfoldment, the power center unfoldment for the soul in the male body was to come into the bodysuit, make sure everything's kosher, bring in energy, as clear energy from home as was possible, moving it through the sun recalibrating, adding uniquely for this physical planet, moving it through the crown chakra of the bodysuit and right out the heart. And the heart was to be the discerning point and the point of giving energy to the village, because those frequencies were too high of a frequency for the outsiders to monitor. They did not know that the male bodysuit was totally feeding, encouraging, and nurturing that little village. They knew there was a village. They just didn't know. So in the monitoring, they saw the male sitting by the side of the stream, maybe sitting in meditation, way off to themselves. There were 9 different clans, 6 men, 6 women in each clan. So the 6 they had their own little group, distracting outsiders while they kept themselves as neutral as possible and flowing energy to nurture the female. All of that was unknown. The only thing that was known to the outsiders was that there was a slave on this new planet, and boy, I hope they get going soon, because we want their crops, we want their minerals, whatever. So the soul who comes into a female body comes into that body unknown, totally invisible to outsiders. So her job is to come in through the power center, through the crown chakra, down right immediately connecting to earth. Those are very slow frequencies, but the outsiders had no way of knowing that she was the one that was going to be birthing and pulling in resources, because they couldn't monitor her. So into Gaia, sisterhood there, coming up to the base chakra. What do we need for this village to survive? Creating literally the cultures based on the values of the mission, policies based on the values of the mission, moving up to the creative center to learn how to use the law of manifestation to birth, first of all, everything that the village would need, the clan would need to survive well. Now, once that lush garden was in place, the serpent, Sophia, the keeper of wisdom, showed up not to the male, but to the female, because she held the next expansion of female mission. And the story of the garden tells us what happened, that myth. Sophia, the serpent, took Eve into the lush garden to a specific tree or a specific situation where she could awaken the discernment of energy formed from home, which was what the woman was doing, tasted this way. This is what it felt like on this planet. And to taste the forms created by the outsiders, and what did that feel like, sense like, have a sensation of on this planet. She opened the door to the knowledge, not that good and evil existed. The volunteers knew that, but what did it taste like on this planet with this bodysuit? Because that was the beginning of what the female mission was truly about. Was when she sensed anything that was in any way off, was to step into that Sophia power to say, hey, I know who you are. Freeze frame, not going anywhere. And the group I call PTO in that unseen world, PTO, this isn't of our light. There's energies here, influences here, devices here, forms here. I don't have to figure it out. You can. And with my declaration, discover all that is outsider and have it identified, contained, neutralized, unplugged from our world, and move it into the place of extinction that our galactic family say it must be. So the reason in my teachings, the reason it's important to know our galactic history is to know why we even came here on Earth. We came on Earth as volunteers, about 5% of our family, 5% only has incarnated or will incarnate, to see what, to have a naming of the forms outsider parasitic domination energy has taken, not just to say whistleblow, look at that, but for the female to have the authority to have it removed. 300,000 years ago, I'm told, one of the clans of the 9, the females were so excited that some got too close to the male in their excitement. Their energy got too excited into the male space to say, oh my gosh, you just can't even know what we're doing here. It's so wonderful. And their energy was picked up on the monitoring system from in that village. That the outsiders said, oh my gosh, what's going on here? There's something happening we have had no knowledge of. And that's when they showed up in the garden in that village to absolutely say to the male, he was the god of the male, and he was, you cannot know good and evil. Not only can you not know good and evil, we are going to put you to work now, and you're going to work for us. We're not waiting around any longer. We're going to wait for us. The female at the time in that group, I have said to my team, why didn't they, because they had begun to get that sensation, why didn't they step between that outsider god and the males and say, we know who you are? Why didn't they activate their mission that point? And they said, because the broadcasting was still going on that said, you're not enough. And the choice was made to wait a little bit longer, learn a little bit more from Sophia, and then they would step up. So they decided to wait. But the outsiders crippled the bodysuit, unplugged the male's heart guidance, and plugged it into the gonads, which were owned by the outsiders, and unplugged the woman's discernment or Sophia center, the solar plexus, unplugged her system into the heart. So she was told she had to serve without discerning. The male was told he had to listen to the voice of God and act from more carnal activities. And the bodysuit was changed and it was replaced with what's called the pro magnum suit. further crippled later on. And the other thing that's important, I think, in that story is that the DNA was crippled, the chakra systems were crippled, and a program inserted into the female that said, I will place enmity between you as a soul in a female body. I will place enmity between you and the voice of wisdom of Sophia. You will reject her. You will call her bad. We will call her the sinner. And all of that happened, by 300,000. And so we didn't even get started on our mission. And because the law of manifestation is what we put in place, the outsider's energy, instead of being removed, kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And outsider energy is not impacted by love at all, because it's not a distortion. It has its own agenda. Love can correct, heal, unify our divine families when we get off balance, but it has no impact on outsiders. So our outsiders have been here pulling the strings, puppeteering behind the curtain, if you will, focusing at us, at each other, making some people look like they're the bad guys, and some people make like they're the good guy, and some people are supposed to be a rescuer, but it's always ineffective because it's all part of keeping us trapped. So that's why it's really, really important for us to heal our maternal lineage and restore that power of Sophia. So I'm going to stop just here, see if there's any questions you have, and then if you want to take a break, we can do that.
No, I'm just drawing and making notes while you're
Okay.
talking. I got my Waldorf notes going on here.
I
I don't
love
know if
it.
you can see them.
I do. I have to have this handy when I'm doing stuff like this. It's important. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm not clear maybe on, like, maybe just a quick recap. The man had two body suits, and it just reminds me of the story from Steiner with the Gospel of Luke, that there were two Christ childs, there was two Jesuses in the same village, and one had to die because it was too much energy to come into one vessel.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
anyway, it reminded me of that. But it also said, like where the women are like these undercover agents or something like that. I've recently had information that I'm like this. I'm such a secret agent. I don't even know it. and um and I fall into the indigos. Like, I was working with someone with some energy stuff, and she said, oh my God, like, you're an indigo. Like, I didn't even pick up on it right away. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Because
Yeah.
this is all relatively new to me.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping into it. But anyway, that's kind of the stuff that's been stirring on this side. I was like, oh, okay, let's find out what this is about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, originally, we go back to original. It was a simple plan, powerful plan, but simple plan. So in the galactic, in all of the galactic worlds, and I'm told all of them, and there's different families. They're all collectives, so we don't function in those worlds as I'm an individual like we kind of do here. We do here for a purpose, but we won't go into that. So it's a collective, and it's not gender. I mean, we don't. Gender isn't a part of those worlds, you know. And so when we made the plan, original plan, the gender was not in any way connected to how we are identified in the cultures of domination.
Okay.
You know, it's so we go back to the original. The original purpose of bodysuits was there was no sexuality going on because they couldn't come together, or because those in the male body kept the outsiders distracted because they were owned, and they knew they were owned. which allowed the females to work over here in secret, building community, building strength, making the garden, making sure we could survive, and then getting ready. When that was ready, then they could step into knowing and have knowledge of good and evil, how it tasted, tasting good and evil. Why? So that they could call for the removal of the energies from the agendas of domination or evil or outsiders. The whole purpose of Earth is to manifest evil, not manifest money, bigger courses, better relationships, more cars. No, the purpose of manifestation is so we will see the evil forms, what they, and have the authority within the male, female body to have them removed, have that energy removed. And I'm not talking about because our star families who come into the male body were then used by outsiders like puppeteers to become the invaders, to become the occupiers, to become the rapists, you see? And so it's not necessarily the body, it's what is manipulating and has been attached to the bodies that needs to be cleared off. We didn't have to do it because we're kind of limited in the bodysuit, but there are teams and collectives that absolutely have incredible sensitivities and can identify those frequencies and do the work that needs to be done to remove them. So as a star being, so this is total volunteer. You were not forced. None of us were forced to incarnate or be part of this mission. None of us. And we didn't know when we started it would ever get this bad. We had no idea that it would get this bad. This is 300,000 years in the making, you see? And with all
and we chose to be here now.
yes, yes, and yes, and we make every time we make, and I believe in reincarnation, but it doesn't matter if we do or not. When we have indeed, you've probably incarnated into a male bodysuit at times, as have I. But the problem with just let's rebalance is crazy because the half truths that are going on in the world today of, oh, we just need to rebalance. Oh, we both carry male, female. It takes away the truth that the male had a real purpose, and that has to be brought back and restored. His chakras need to be restored. The healing and trauma has to be restored. The same is true with female. The female's chakra system, the unfoldment, her assignment needs to be restored. She's the leader. He's the nurturer. And so when you rebalance with how do we then work together, with that nurturing and leadership? It's not, he's the leader, assertive, aggressive. She's the nurturer, submissive, and obedient. So here we are today looking at in your line as a surrogate for all maternal lines. All the work we do in TAG is never individual because we recognize we are all connected in our intended purpose of restoring ourselves to home energy, which means get rid of the outsiders. Okay. So did that answer your question or a little bit?
I think I'm getting warmer on that. And so I think I'm ready for more.
Yeah. In our day and time, say for the Sophia authority, from what I understand, was only restored about 20 years ago.
Wow.
Up until now, our parents, their grandparents, great grandparents, both male and female, were under the capture of outsiders at the whim of outsiders. So they did the best they could because they didn't have a way to get out from under. And in my understanding, those of us who were born into the white culture were born to be the spies, to find the answer to restore Sophia. So and in that time, a lot of the souls coming into the body have brought in enough remembrance that they know this is crazy, and yet they are placed in systems that have been created by the culture of domination. So you even take the education system, that, here's a soul prepared to come in to be that brilliance, and they're placed more than ever before, and they're placed into a system that is designed to crush them. You see, the value of what you do is unbelievable. See, and so the struggle, and also they bring in a unique wiring, and that we're not prepared for. We're not even prepared for the fact that many of them still, like India's, they bring in stuff that there's no way, there's no system that can help them figure out how they fit there. You are creating new systems. And
Yeah. Somebody said once, like what's going to happen next, or what are we supposed to do? And the other person responded, I don't know. We weren't supposed to make it this far.
well, parasitics didn't think we would. No, that's true. Yeah.
Well, yeah. If I look back at my storyline, I'm an anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it speaks to the brilliance that we are, and the commitment that those who not just survived, but then broke free a little bit, and then broke free a little bit, and then broke free a little bit, has made this a different world in so many ways. And we don't even know for sure what that's going to look like, because you don't know, but there's a team you're connected to that does. Like, I can't tell you because I don't know, but you have a team that does. And so knowing that you are part of something bigger than you ever knew, and that your answers are held for you in those worlds beyond earth we call spirit, now you can see how critically it is important it is for you to learn, practice, master your spiritual guidance in ways that are safe, that are helpful, that are of your highest good. Waking Women Moving Mountains also points to your personal spiritual guidance. Clear. Come on over, learn, and be a part of that community.